I'm employed in the marketing field. My life had been fairly predictable until a short while ago. I lease a simple apartment, put in long hours at work, and strive to keep my finances in check. However, a few months back, everything started unraveling. The cost of rent in the city skyrocketed. My housemate ditched me, leaving me swamped with bills I couldn't manage alone. That's when my close friend Ethan swooped in with a lifeline, saying, "Why don't you stay at my place for a bit? My folks won't care." I didn't think twice. Ethan's been like family since our college days. We were teammates on the football field, kept in touch through the years, and never drifted apart. So I accepted his offer, gathered my belongings, and settled into the spare room at his parents' suburban home. His father was rarely around, always away on business trips. His mother, though, was a constant presence. Her name's Margaret. I recalled her from the days she'd pick Ethan up after practice. She had this understated grace, golden hair, piercing green eyes, and a quiet confidence that drew attention. I hadn't seen her in ages. When I arrived, I assumed she'd offer a brief greeting and carry on with her routine. I was mistaken. It was my second morning there. Ethan was out and I was in the kitchen brewing coffee. Margaret strolled in, draped in a light blue robe that skimmed her knees. Her hair was still wet, fresh from a shower. I tried not to gawk, but she was striking. "Good morning," she said lightly, as if it were any other day. "I was hoping you were still here." She mentioned a box of holiday decorations in the garage she needed moved to the attic, too heavy for her to manage alone. I agreed with a quick, "happy to help." We made our way to the garage. The box wasn't that heavy, but I went along with it. I trailed her up the narrow attic stairs. At the top, she turned, her face softening into a gentle smile. "I'll act like this is just about the box," she said. Her voice was soft, with a teasing lilt that hinted at something more, like we both sensed a subtle change in the air, an unspoken understanding that this wasn't just about decorations. I stayed quiet, handed her the box, but that smile lingered in my mind. That evening, Ethan returned, and things felt like business as usual. We shared a meal, watched a loud action movie, and cracked jokes as we always did. Yet, that attic moment replayed in my head. Her voice, her gaze, the way she spoke, it wouldn't let go. The next morning, she asked for my help again. A curtain rod in her bedroom had apparently loosened. Ethan was already off to work. I was in the kitchen, dressed in workout shorts and a sleeveless shirt, drinking water when she appeared, fully dressed this time. Still, her expression carried that same spark. Stepping into her room, I felt it again. A quiet tension, like the air itself was holding its breath. I climbed the ladder and tightened the rod. When I turned, she was right there. Too close. She looked up at me and said, "I spend more time alone in this house than you might think." I didn't budge, and neither did she. I replied, "You don't seem like someone who'd mind solitude." She gave a small smile. "You'd be surprised." That was it. No touch, no overstep, just another moment piling onto something that was clearly growing. I could tell this wasn't a fling for her. And I wasn't playing games either. That night, I lay awake, eyes fixed on the ceiling for hours. This wasn't some fleeting attraction. Whatever was brewing carried real weight, and the daring part of me wanted to chase it. It was Thursday evening when things tipped from possibility to certainty. Ethan had a date that night with a woman he'd met at the gym. He left around 6 o'clock, tossing out a casual, "Don't wait up, man." By 7, the house was silent. I was in the kitchen slapping together a sandwich when Margaret walked in. She wore dark jeans and a fitted cream sweater that looked tailor-made for her. She seemed weary but effortlessly beautiful. "Not much of a chef, are you?" she teased, leaning against the counter with a grin. I chuckled. "Sandwiches are my specialty." She sauntered over, poured herself a glass of wine. "Better than nothing. Want a glass?" I'm not a wine guy, but I nodded. We settled in the living room, sitting at opposite ends of the sofa. The TV hummed in the background, but we ignored it. At first, we chatted about light stuff, Ethan's silly childhood antics, her work at a local charity, how drained she'd been lately. Her voice was steady, but there was an undercurrent, something unspoken weighing on her. She gazed into her wineglass for a long moment, then asked, "Do you ever feel like you're just getting by?" I met her eyes. "Every day." She turned to face me fully. "I've been married for 21 years, Jake." 22, actually, she said. "Guess how many of those felt like I had a true partner?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She let out a quiet laugh. "Sorry, I don't know why I'm unloading this on you. Probably shouldn't." "It's fine," I said. "You don't have to hold back with me." She held my gaze for a long beat, then stood. "Can you help me with something upstairs?" she asked, her tone casual but laced with that familiar shift. We went upstairs. Her bedroom was bathed in a warm glow from a bedside lamp. She gestured to the dresser. The top drawers jammed again. I tugged it open. It slid smoothly. We both knew it wasn't stuck. When I turned, she was just a few feet away. Her arms were crossed, not defensively, but like she was restraining something. Her breathing was uneven. I spoke before I could stop myself. "Margaret, maybe we should stop this before it goes too far." She didn't move. "Do you want to stop?" she asked. I didn't answer. She stepped closer. "Because I don't." We stood there, inches apart, not touching, but the space between us felt charged. I could sense the warmth of her presence, the weight of everything unspoken. Then she kissed me. It was slow, deliberate, meaningful. I kissed her back, fully in, no hesitation. Her hands traced my arms. Mine settled on her waist. She guided me toward the bed, then paused, her fingers lightly pressed against my chest. "Jake," she murmured, "I'm not tipsy. I'm not lost. I know what I'm doing." "I know," I said. "So do I." We didn't speak again. That night changed everything. It wasn't just physical. It wasn't a careless slip fueled by boredom or alcohol. It was intentional, intense, rooted in years she'd buried under routine, a hollow marriage, and unspoken longing. For me, it was thrilling, dangerous, unlike anything I'd known. I left her room at 2:20 a.m., barefoot, creeping down the hall like I hadn't just crossed an irreversible line. The house was quiet. Ethan's door was shut. My heart raced like I'd sprinted a mile. I lay in the guest bed, staring at the ceiling, and realized something startling. I didn't feel remorse. I was already thinking about the next time. It didn't take long for this to become a routine. At first, it was subtle, quick glances in the kitchen, fingers brushing when passing the pepper. But beneath those small gestures was a secret heavy enough to shift the air. We got skilled at concealing it. Margaret was always poised, in command. But the moment Ethan left the house, even briefly, that composure melted, and so did mine. A week or two after that first night, Ethan worked late. I got a text from Margaret making tea. "Want some?" That meant he's gone. "Come upstairs." I waited a few minutes, then went up. She was perched on her bed's edge, barefoot, her sweater slipping off one shoulder. She handed me a mug, but I didn't drink. I set it on the nightstand and kissed her. We didn't talk much those nights. Maybe that made it feel more profound. It wasn't about escapism or pretense. It was about quiet connection, comfort, being truly seen without explanation. She never said it, but I knew I wasn't just a fleeting diversion. And she wasn't just a thrill for me. Mornings brought more conversation. With Ethan gone and the house stirring, we'd sit at the kitchen table. Her foot might graze mine beneath it as if nothing had happened the night before. We'd discuss books, current events, her charity work. I was drawn to her mind. But it wasn't all smooth. Guilt lingered, always just under the surface. One night, after we'd been together again, she lay on her side, studying me like she was memorizing my features. "I've never done this before," she said softly. I nodded. "Neither have I." "I'm not ashamed," she whispered, then paused. "But I'm afraid." "Of what?" I asked. "How natural it feels," she said. And it did. That's what made it so risky. No chaos, no pretense. Just this magnetic pull that made rules, morality, reason, consequences feel far away, like we existed in a bubble where none of it mattered. But reality doesn't stop. And rules don't vanish. One afternoon, Ethan came home early from work. I just left Margaret's room, fully dressed, thankfully, when I heard the front door slam. My pulse spiked. I rushed down the hall to the kitchen, pretending I'd come from the bathroom. "Yo, dude," Ethan shouted from the entryway. "What's up?" I forced a smile and yelled back, "Just chilling, man." He didn't suspect anything. But Margaret stayed upstairs the rest of the day. Later that night, she texted me, "We need to be smarter about this." I replied, "Absolutely." But smarter didn't mean we were stopping. One Saturday, Margaret's husband returned unexpectedly. He wasn't due back for another couple of days. I was on the porch when I saw his car roll into the driveway. I slipped inside and shot Margaret a glance. Her eyes widened, a flicker of real fear crossing her face. That night, we didn't exchange a single word. For 3 days, we barely crossed paths. During that time, something struck me, both terrifying and exhilarating. I missed her, not just her touch, but her presence, her essence. Yet I also saw the truth clearly. The deeper we dove into this, the more complicated it became. Ethan and I had been buddies for years. I was living under the same roof as her husband. Every step we took risked shattering more than just our own lives. Still, we didn't pull back. Another evening, another kiss, another quiet question whispered in the shadows. "If I weren't married, would you stick around?" I couldn't find the words to respond, and she didn't press me. But her question lingered, heavy in my mind. What we shared wasn't just secretive passion, it was growing into something deeply emotional. I felt it in her gaze, like I was her lifeline. In the way she confided she hadn't felt truly alive in years, not until now. In the way her kisses carried a desperate edge, as if each might be her last. And I think I was falling for her. Maybe I already had. That morning, I woke with a strange pressure in my chest. Ever feel that? Like something's off, but you can't pin it down. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, sensing a shift I couldn't name. Margaret hadn't texted me in 2 days, no morning greetings, no sly looks over coffee, no "Can you help me upstairs?" with that smile that said so much more. Just silence, thick and unsettling. I told myself she was being cautious. Maybe she was exhausted. Maybe Ethan was home more. Maybe she needed a break. But deep down, I knew better. I'd learned Margaret's ways, her habits, her expressions, how she masked her struggles. I could sense it, what we had was fraying. That Friday, Ethan took off for a weekend hiking trip with his cousins, gone by 6 a.m. I lingered in the kitchen, waiting for something, a message, a visit, anything. Nothing came. Eventually, I couldn't just sit there. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling too loud in the quiet house. Her bedroom door was closed. I hesitated, hand raised, then knocked. She opened it moments later, no makeup, hair pulled back, dressed in an old sweatshirt and jeans, not her usual polished self. No smile, no surprise, just a quiet "come in" as she stepped aside. I entered. The room felt oddly chilly, though the air was still. We sat on the edge of her bed, close but not touching, wrapped in a heavy silence. Then she said it, plain and direct, "We need to end this." No softening the blow, no gentle lead-in, just the truth, sharp and sudden. I nodded slowly, as if I'd rehearsed this moment in my head 100 times, because I had. "I know," I said softly. I sensed it coming. Margaret stared at her hands, fingers interlaced, grounding herself. "Someone's going to get hurt," she murmured. "And it won't just be us." "I understand," I said, and I did, but understanding didn't dull the ache. She kept going, like she had to get it all out before her resolve faltered. "I didn't see this coming, Jake. I wasn't searching for it. It just happened." I turned to her. "Same here." She took a shaky breath. "I care about you more than I probably should," she said, her voice barely audible. "But we're playing with fire. You know that, don't you?" "I do," I said. "I'm exhausted from hiding," she continued. "Every time I face Ethan, or even my husband, sure, he barely acknowledges me, but he's still my husband." Her voice cracked just enough to hit me hard. "I'm not ashamed of us," she said quietly. "I needed to feel alive again, and you gave me that. You reminded me I'm still here." Then she added, "But we can't keep this up. We can't act like there's no cost." I nodded, my throat too tight for words. I just sat there, listening, trying to hold it together. Then she turned to me, really turned, and asked, "Do you regret it?" I didn't hesitate. Not at all. Her eyes softened and she nodded. "Good. I don't either. I just want to stop before this turns sour, before we get caught, before it ruins everything." Her words landed heavy, not with anger, but with the truth of her reasoning. I stood and she followed. We walked to the door together. She opened it but paused, her hand hovering like she wanted to reach out to touch my face or say more. She didn't. "One thing," she said. "Promise me." "Anything," I replied. "When you think back on this, don't feel guilty. Remember it for what it was." I swallowed hard. "I promise." Then I left. No last look, no final words. I walked down the stairs, a knot in my throat, a storm in my chest. That night, I packed my bags, told Ethan I'd found a small studio downtown and needed my own space. He didn't pry. Maybe he suspected something. Maybe he didn't want to know. I moved out the next morning. Margaret wasn't there when I left. And just like that, it was done. Or so I thought. Nearly a year went by, 11 months and some change, to be exact. I hadn't seen her, hadn't heard from her, not a single word since I walked out with my bag over my shoulder and my heart in pieces. At first, she crossed my mind unexpectedly, a song on the radio, a woman with similar golden hair passing by. But over time, it faded to a quiet hum, always there, soft enough to pretend I'd moved on. On the surface, I got my own place, picked up more freelance gigs, went on a few dates, but nothing serious, nothing that lasted. Then one Saturday afternoon, I stepped into a small cafe I'd never visited, just killing time before a meeting. I ordered a coffee, sat down, and was scrolling through my phone when I heard it, not a greeting, just Jake. I knew instantly. I looked up and there was Margaret. She looked much the same, though her eyes carried a hint of weariness, like life had pressed down harder. But her quiet elegance, that soft confidence, was unchanged. She wore a long gray coat over a navy sweater, hair pulled back in that effortless style I'd always admired. "Well," I said, standing too quickly. "Hey." "Hey," she replied, her smile cautious. "Can I sit?" I gestured to the chair across from me. "Of course." She set her purse down, hands folded in her lap. A long silence followed, not awkward, just full. "I never thought I'd see you again," she said. "Same," I replied. "Didn't know you came to this part of town." "I don't usually," she said, glancing away. "Work had an event nearby." She looked back. "You look well." "Thanks." "So do you." Another pause. She gazed out the window. "I've thought about reaching out so many times." "I know the feeling," I said quietly. She met my eyes then, really met them, and her gaze was as sharp and deep as ever, like she could still see right through me. "I meant what I said back then," she continued softly. "I didn't regret it." "Neither did I said. She leaned in slightly, her voice dropping. "I still don't." I shifted back in my chair, unsure how to respond. Seeing her again brought everything rushing back, not just the attraction, but the connection that never truly faded. "How's life?" I asked. "At home, I mean." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Same as ever. Maybe worse." I nodded slowly. "And Ethan?" she asked, her voice tinged with guilt for mentioning him. "He's clueless. Still talks about you sometimes. Wonders what you're up to." That hit harder than I expected. I looked away. "Yeah, I think about him too." She reached into her coat, pulled out her phone, hesitated, then slid it across the table. A draft message was open. "No one's home tomorrow." I stared at it, not with fear, but with a rush of memory, recognition, desire. "I've tried to move on," she said, her voice a whisper. "Tried to forget you, forget us, but it's still there, Jake. It never went away." I looked into her eyes. "Same here." We sat there, coffee gone cold, the world buzzing around us. But for a moment, it felt like time had stopped, just like before. Then I said, "If we start this again, we can't kid ourselves. We never did." she replied. That's what made it real. That night I couldn't sleep. I paced my apartment, half expecting some sign to stop me. At 11:05 p.m., my phone lit up. Her message, tomorrow noon. I didn't respond, but I went. When she opened the door, she wore a plain sweater and jeans. No makeup, hair loose. She didn't speak, just gave me a look. I stepped inside. She shut the door. And just like that, we were back. No grand words, no fantasies, just two people who